Hi there and welcome to Kapow. As some of you may have noticed, I am not Sonya.
That's right. With Sonya away on an important mission, we have Hex from ABC's Good Game kindly filling in. But don't worry, everything else will be pretty much the same. This is still Kings Comics, I'm still Al.
Yes, and we still have some awesome comics for all you Kapowians out there, one of which is the mini-series for one of my favourite titles, Danger Girl Trinity.
And we'll be looking at the recently re-released issue number 1 of Morning Glories from Image.
And what's Ray checking out today?
It's an animated series called Kids on the Slope, so that should be interesting.
You know what I think is interesting?
What's that?
Robots fighting vampires, and that's exactly what you'll get in our review of Transfusion, Vampires vs. Robots.
Nice segue.
Thanks.
So, vampires, robots, who's your money on?
I just wish they could all get along.
I challenge anyone who has even a passing interest in vampires to walk past a trade that has the words Vampires vs. Robots on the cover.
I know, I mean, that's gotta be a good throwdown,
Yeah.
right? Merciless blood-sucking vampires versus cold, implacable machines. But, I mean, what could vampires and robots possibly be fighting over?
Well, as it turns out, us. In the future, apparently, robots will be using human blood as a combination of fuel and industrial lubricant. It's not really made clear how that works, but then not a lot in Transfusion is made that clear, is it, Hex?
Yeah, but we do know a few things. We know that there are vampires, we know that there are robots, and we know that they're competing for a rapidly dwindling supply of blood. Our lead character, William, is a vampire that joins forces with two humans on the logic that they might be the last two Happy Meals on the planet, and they set off to attack the robot stronghold.
I've got to say, this all felt a little sparse to me. I mean, Steve Niles is famed for his vampire saga 30 Days of Night, but in this, he really seems to be putting his feet up and letting the artist do all of the heavy lifting. I mean, there's not much character development or expansion on this post-apocalyptic world we find ourselves in.
Well, maybe so, but I feel like the coldness and the emptiness of this world is kind of the point. And Mention 3's artwork is outstanding, managing to be both beautiful and terrifying at the same time, with wild splatters of blood and a sense of chaos created through ink and brushstrokes, but then refined and brought together with tiny details like sharp pointed teeth and detailed machinery.
I agree that most of the artwork was awesome, but I was kind of put off by the change in artists in the third part. Tony Moy takes over for 4 pages when the final robot and vampire fight kicks off, and he uses this completely different, sketchy, line-drawn style that didn't work for me at all.
Wow, no, it absolutely worked for me. I mean, I got this sense of the art being constructed around me as I read. I was really surprised by this. I loved every minute of it, and I'm gonna give it a buy.
Okay, well, honestly, I was kind of disappointed by this one. I mean, the plot just felt too hurried and unjustified for me to get into the story, and even with some undeniably awesome moments in the artwork, it just didn't do it. I'm gonna have to give this one a bury. You may have noticed lately, if you've had a wander through your local comic book store, that Image Comics are re-releasing a number of their first issues, all for the low price of $1.
Yeah, and I think it's a great idea too, because quite often you miss that first issue and then later on you can't get into the series. And it also gave us the opportunity to take a look at the first issue of Morning Glories.
Yes, and quite a first issue it is. Morning Glory Academy is one of the most prestigious and exclusive prep schools in America, but it's far more than that. A fact which we learn very early in this first issue, as 2 students attempt an escape, and one of them is killed by what appears to be a violent ghost.
We then meet a batch of 6 new students on their first day at Morning Glory, all blissfully unaware of the horror they're about to stumble into. Writer Nick Spencer does a great job of introducing all of these new characters and establishing their varied personalities and personal gifts, giving each of them an individual voice.
And he also does a great job of trickling in the mystery. I honestly have no idea what's going on at this school or what they want these child prodigies for, but whatever it is, I hope it includes a lot of creepy, paranormal-y stuff, because that's when Roden Esqueo's artwork really shines.
Yeah, I could have used a little bit more going on in the art, actually. I mean, there's one double-page spread, for example, that's just the same image of a breakfast table 9 times. I mean, come on, throw me a close-up of something. I mean, I get it, they're having breakfast.
Oh, see, for me, that double page was a great way of building tension and allowing the dialogue to do its work. This whole comic seemed like a tag team between Spencer and Esqueo, doing their own things at different times. I loved this first issue. I'm giving it a buy, and I can't wait to grab a hold of the trade.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, the first issue does throw down a good combination of menace versus mystery, I thought, but I just really wanted more from the art style, and even the paneling seemed a little bit bland to me. That said, I'd happily read the second issue, so I'm gonna give this one a borrow.
Hey, Ray.
Hello, Sonya. Hey, guys.
No, Ray.
Yeah, okay, I know. No funny business. Okay, so I'll get on with it. All right, so Kids on the Slope. That's what we're looking at this week. Now, the setting? Summer, 1966. Kaoru moves house yet again, this time to a seaside town in Kyushu. For him, it's been this way his whole life, a frustrating, never-ending cycle of just trying to adjust. His life is about to change though, as he makes new friendships who introduce him to the world of jazz. Just as the music genre is renowned for, be prepared for a syncopated journey across the lives of our trio as they venture into the world and beyond their hometown and youth. So this anime is the type that can kind of catch its viewers off guard because we're not entering a fantastical realm or world here. Instead, it's more pedestrian. It's a slice of life drama, but it plays out as well as any great live action TV show.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's more light-hearted than most of the animes I generally watch, certainly.
Oh,
but
right.
That said, I think it's reaching for a more sophisticated audience. And the dealing with the dilemmas of high school life, that's done in a very relatable fashion.
Yes, I thought so too. The relationships are they're eloquently explored, and I think they do this through a great use of dialogue. It's really fresh and original, and also the circumstances surrounding our characters. But what did you think of these characters individually, Sonya?
Well, they're each interesting in their own way,
Yeah,
Ray.
I thought so.
I mean, the main trio in particular have richly developed histories.
Yes.
I enjoyed the roguish qualities of Sentaro most. He's a charismatic character.
Yes, me too. I loved how he would readily get into fights to protect his friends, but it was quite, a realistic portrayal too, because often he would emerge with his fair share of bruises. I also liked how they didn't let Kaoru's character feel too sorry for himself. They didn't really dwell on that and his emotions, which many animes I feel fall victim to. Linking these two, we have Ritsuko as friend, colleague, and later on a love interest, who is a likable character, though I would have liked more detail about her ambition, what drives her, so yeah.
Yeah, but I think the relationships did seem quite genuine, didn't seem forced. I also thought the small village they were part of was believable. Through this window was a town full of life and detail.
Yes, I agree that the clothing, the architecture, and the vehicles, they all seemed accurate to the period. For me, it was an interesting glimpse into how the Western influence was filtering into Japan through music, even though jazz had been present in Japan since the 1920s. Now, I did a little digging, and I'm not sure if this was intentional, though given who the composer is, I think it was. There are some similarities between the main character Kaoru and the real-life well-known jazz pianist Yosuke Yamashita. Now, for those of you who don't know, he was actually a pioneer of avant-garde and free jazz from the 1960s. So I reckon if I dig a little deeper, there'll probably be, similarities between other characters and other musicians of the time.
Right.
But what did you... Just give us your verdict overall, Sonya. I'm really curious.
Well, look, obviously the music is this series' biggest compliment.
Yes.
The sweet rhythmic tunes underlying the scenes and the jam sessions in the basement of the record store are excellent. That said, if I wanted to watch a drama, honestly, I'd probably just watch something live action.
Okay.
Obviously, this genre of anime, it does have an audience. It's certainly quite interesting, and it's usually very well received.
It is, yes.
But when it comes down to it, it's just not how I like my udon. So
Fair enough.
I'm going to have to give it a berry.
Oh, okay. Well, look, I can relate to that. I can see where you're coming from. Each episode is actually named after a well-known jazz tune. I thought that was a nice touch.
Sure, yeah.
And look, as you said, there's plenty of toe-tapping goodness. It's seriously energizing stuff. And that's because the composer is Yoko Kanno. Now, some of you might remember that or know that he's from Ghost in the Shell. And he's very well respected amongst the anime community. And he's also teamed up with the director, Shinichiro Watanabe, on two other occasions, Macross Plus and Cowboy Bebop, two of my faves. The animation and art direction by Shinichiro is very good. It's not boundary breaking, but then for this particular story it doesn't have to be. It's not required. But overall the story itself falls a little short of being compelling. While I admire how well this drama has been written and directed, I think that over time it's going to be largely forgettable, and that's why it only just creeps over the line as a borrow from me. And I'm really only giving it a borrow based on what our viewers might enjoy as well. I think in particular some of our female viewers, because this is, it's a change of pace, this genre, and it is done well. And look, that's why I was quite surprised that you gave it a berry, Sonya, to be honest.
I seriously don't know how she does this every week.
You! Evil Al!
Danger Girl is obviously known for being a genre title that uses kitschy cliches and female sexuality to tell its story, but I think it's important to note that it's the women who are always calling the shots here. They use their sexuality as a weapon, are confident within themselves, and it's always the men who are left slack-jawed and dumbfounded. So, you know, the gender stereotyping isn't just restricted to the women. Danger Girl Trinity keeps the series true to form.
Pretty much, yeah. I think Andy Hartnell's going a bit more Indiana Jones than James Bond in this one, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Neither is splitting the story 3 ways between Abby Chase, Sydney Savage, and her sister Sonya, the newest Danger Girl. But I'm not sure that the use of 3 different artists pays off, though.
Yeah, you know, Danger Girl was one of the first comic series that I was ever really drawn to, and it was because of J. Scott Campbell's art style, so it was definitely missed here. That said, I kind of like the idea of having 3 different artists take on the 3 different girls' stories. I thought that was kind of cool. I would say that John Royal's art in the first section is probably the most similar to Campbell's, so I really enjoyed that the most.
Yeah, the story focusing on Sonya Savage was pretty good too. Illustrated by Stephen Molnar, it's an action romp through the jungle with romancing the stone undertones. But I quite dislike the middle section though, both in the story and the art.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Harvey Telebow goes a little bit mad with a gratuitous crotch focus in that one, and having the whole section revolve around a guy that Sydney just slept with seems to miss the point a little bit, I thought.
I've got to say, this wasn't all I had hoped for. I mean, so much of the charm and appeal of Danger Girl is in its artwork, and without J. Scott Campbell, even the best looking section of this does kind of come across as a slightly less good version of his style. I mean, it's not bad by any means, but I do hope it does pick up a bit in future issues. I'm gonna give it a borrow.
Yeah, all in all, I enjoyed the first issue. I mean, it was lacking some of that cheesy humour that I really enjoyed from the previous stories, which is a shame, but I'm just looking forward to the moment where those stories inevitably intersect and we get some cool Charlie's Angels action happening, so I'm gonna give this a buy. Well, Kapowians, that's all we have time for today, and since Sonya will have rescued her evil twin by now, she will be back next week.
Wait, I didn't tell you that's what she was doing. How did you know that?
Uh-oh, busted. I was the one that sent the memo about her evil twin. I just want to come and talk about comics and look at all the toys.
Well, you know, it all worked out for the best. I'm sure she's fine.
Yeah. Don't forget, guys, you can head over to sftv.com.au, where Al and I will be talking about Dean Motter's Mr. X and the Victories.
Indeed. Wait. You will probably know this. The gorillas that captured the evil twin, was that like ape gorillas or soldier gorillas?
Yeah, they were kind of like large monkeys with guns, so a bit of both. Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure she's fine.
Hey, she's a strong lady. She can take care of herself.
Yeah, as long as there's no zombies.
I'm pretty sure.